All right, welcome everybody to the Sunny Days in Detroit show. A little bit of a hiatus for a while. We're coming back. We're gonna recap a little of 2023 today, talk about some of the highs and the lows, and then we're gonna get into the 2024 kind of roster construction, where we think this team can improve, where we think they can get better, where we think they'll stand pat, and kind of go from there. So to start off, um, Lions ended up, obviously, anyone tuning into this knows, went to the NFC Championship, had a lead at half, they lost. Ultimately, a successful season. Um, I think that there were high expectations going into this year about this team. I don't think the general consensus around the league was that this was a team that would be in the NFC Championship. I think people looked at them and said, this is a team that can do that. But I don't know that they were a lock in the way that kind of the Niners were, to some extent, the Cowboys and Eagles, in a lot of people's minds throughout this league. Um, Overall, I think they had a hell of a season. They gave us something exciting. Um, they gave us something exciting to talk about each week. I mean, when you think about it, from September to the last week of January, they lost 6 games. I mean, most of us as Lions fans are used to by Halloween losing 6 games, right? So to have a season like this where they had gotten rid of some of those awful records that we had heard about, haven't won a playoff game since '91, haven't won the division since '93. They did away with all of that, and it wasn't like a lot of luck. I mean, listen, there's luck involved in any playoff run, but they didn't do it with smoke and mirrors. You watch this team develop to, if you look at when Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes were hired, and the way they described the way they want this team to look and the way they want to play football here, you saw the vision. You saw it actually come to life, and that was a beautiful thing. And we saw a lot of guys take a lot of steps this year in the right direction, which is also great, and really something to look forward to. And we kind of said it all year. I know I did. What's so great about being a fan of this team right now is that the best players on this team, for the most part, are 25, 26 and under. A couple guys closer to 30, Jared Goff and whatnot. But for the most part, this is a group of young guys. And I think, we're already kind of not so much seeing it now, as we see the St. Brown contract talks start to, linger a little on social media. But they're going to have to make some tough decisions in the next year, 2, 3 years, about who they want to keep. And that's a really good problem to have. And that's not something that we've been able to say about with this team. So, whenever you guys got anything to kind of recap here on 2023, Pat, Pavo?
I'll let Pat go.
Pat, you're muted. Mute monster got him.
I was coughing earlier. Yeah, I think the one thing that I really enjoyed, and especially kind of rewatching that little mini movie that came out, and I was like watching it, and as I'm watching, I'm also kind of thinking as like the season trudged on towards like probably like the back third, I'd have to say, and like kind of is how I kept like seeing like defense keeps getting blamed a lot, but they're not actually playing that bad, like letting up yards but holding people to 3 quite consistently, and like you saw it in the first game when you saw that recap of the mini movie in Kansas City, and then you saw a lot in the playoffs where the Rams were driving, but they wouldn't let them get in the touchdown. They're holding them to 3. And like you still always talk about like defense wins championships. And I think we always like kind of think of that as like low scoring, single digit, holding teams, like really kind of keeping them in check. But I thought it was like kind of interesting, kind of rewatching, kind of like being removed for a few weeks and kind of not thinking about it and kind of looking back and then thinking about it holistically. I'm like, defense did have some like really good progression throughout the year. And I think to your point, it's like some of that development finally came to fruition. Like I think mid-season, you started seeing Barnes come along as a linebacker this year, he's in year 3. You saw Iffy coming around at the end of the season, finally healthy and finally putting it all together. And like, those are the things that the team preaches. And it's good to know it's just not false narratives, right? It's like, I think we've seen it so many times with like over promising, under delivering of every regime ever in my lifetime So like, it's nice to see people that like have a real plan are executing it, and it's like
Yeah.
actually coming to fruition. Like what they say is not just like some bullshit. Because like I look at, like you said it in the beginning, like I was one of those people. If you told me like, yeah, you guys are gonna make it the MC champion, I'm like, yeah, probably not. Next year I could see it, but I think there's still a lot of development to be had. And then they did it, and everything just clicked. Like the offense kept its momentum, played even better in some areas. I think in the run game specifically than last year. And then they just like got a little better on defense each week, and that was enough to keep them from letting any game get away from them. Like they weren't always perfect. It wasn't always the prettiest on defense, but it seemed like someone always made a play towards the end of the game, whether it was Hutchinson getting a sack or Branch getting an interception, like anything. It always seemed like games were within reach, even if we were down. And it didn't happen often, which was also another new feeling of not playing down, playing ahead, which is awesome too.
I also really think that they hit a bump in the road at the exact right time in the season. Because I think if it happened too early, there would have been another bump later. And if it happened too late and you hit a bump in the playoffs, like you're fucked. You know, it's one game elimination. I think them hitting that rocky point in November where we started to question things that they were doing and, you know, personnel and all these decisions. And then you saw it all come together. You know, to Paul's credit, I think it was not after the Green Bay loss, after the Chicago loss in Chicago. You know, what Paul had come on here and said was basically like, after this, like we're going to see what this team is made of. Like, what are they? Are they the team? Are they the team that we saw in the first 10 weeks of the season, or are they this team that is going to shit the bed when we need them the most? Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was on one of our, we talked about it right after the Green Bay loss on Thanksgiving, and we're on here. And I think I said, I mean, I think we all said it in different ways, is that I think this stretch of not playing great is going to last another couple of weeks. Now, do you lose those two games? You didn't. They beat New Orleans in one where they played a great first quarter, but then they played very, very average to below average. The rest of the third, they just got up by 24, 28 points, whatever they're up on, and they were able to hold off New Orleans. And then, you saw them play super sloppy against Chicago. And that's when I think we got on here and we just talked about how this team will bounce back against, I think it went Denver. Then you got a chance to win the division against Minnesota. How do you not get hyped on? Then you get the biggest playoff atmosphere kind of game that you could replicate in a game in Dallas where they played their asses off. And, and then you finish off the season and, Dan Campbell played his starters. A lot of people right after the game ended questioned that. You could look back now and say that he made the right call because Laporta didn't miss any time. No one really missed any time. And they came out firing in the Saints game. I mean, in the Rams game. So, but to talk like as a fan, I think not as like someone that's trying to like break down the team and be like any like analyst here of a team. Like I think that what I got out of this season recapping is the most is like what I got out as a fan. I got the confidence that we got a really good general manager, and it's not just he's not winning just in March, April, May. He's winning in when the season starts. We got a hell of a head coach. We got players that respond. And, we didn't see this. They put out that one movie after they won the division. And when they went back to training camp, and none of us knew that Dan Campbell said this because they never showed it in training camp. When Dan Campbell said, we're going to hit a rough patch in the season, there's going to be a time that it's going to get ugly for us, and we're going to have to respond. And we saw that stretch. He made them get up. And I've said this, and we think we said on the show, they painted all these embarrassing facts about them. Last division win, last road home playoff game, no Super Bowls. And like to be calling out your flaws takes a lot of guts. And especially Dan Campbell, like you didn't win anything yet at that time to do it. So for me as someone is just to I look at just the win that I got from the season is to like I wake up on like a Sunday, no matter if I'm going to a game or not, and I'm like kind of proud to put on that Lions jersey, proud to put that hat on and go run my errands. And it's just a sense of like being out of like officially being out of like that pitiful bottom NFL team that's laughed at, as a fan, and just to be able to know that I have the confidence in a GM and a head coach and a fan base and seeing like the fans, the joy the city got. Like I think I said it, like after we beat the Rams, I mean, you thought there was a party going on in downtown Detroit. People were kissing, and it was minus 20 degrees outside the windshield. Like it was just a joy to watch. You know, it was a joy to travel, see the games, just as much as been a joy, I'm sure, to watch at home. And I just think that it's over these, you know, I think this is going to be my 27th year of season tickets. And it was just an absolute joy to watch them play. And, you know, talk about like just really quickly what you said about, you said somewhere when you talk when you open it up, you don't have to be the best NFL team to make it to the NFC Championship game. I don't know still if I think we were the top 2 teams to make it, but you got to be a team. You got to play to the guy next. You got to play for the guy next to you. And and that's what I think Dan Campbell brings to the table. He brings a team that never quits. You know, never quits. And they play for one another. They play hard. So, you know, with that said, I think that they've set themselves up for the future, you know, pretty damn well. So
yeah, 100%. And, you know, a lot of people have come here and failed at that for a multitude of reasons. You know, we talk often about Dan and Brad Holmes because these guys are the architects, but there's so many people behind the scenes, and you know it really all starts with Sheila Ford Hamp. It starts with her checking her ego out the door and bringing in Barry Sanders and
which
Chris
can I cut
Spielman.
you off though? Which I thought was kind of weird that she only got a B- grading in the NFL player.
Yeah.
And you know what, which I was wondering, I'm like, is this what the Lions only grade him, or do other players also, like, is it a guy who got cut by the Lions? Like, does Isaiah Buggs go great or bad, or is it only current players? Because I thought it was kind of weird though that she got a B-, and I think she was like 21st ranked out of like owners.
Yeah, I think it goes to more of a testament of her kind of hands-off approach. I think there's a lot of hands-on owners where they might get more visibility to players where you're seeing those really bad grades or really good grades because they're like, hey, I love talking to this guy. He's an awesome dude. Like I think Shields is a little more behind the scenes and doesn't.
Well, Hunt got last.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Hunt from the Chiefs got last.
I was shocked when I saw that.
I saw that too. That's why I was like, what? Like, that's what I don't understand. Yeah. I'm sure I could find answers. Like, it was kind of shocking that Hunt was like dead last in owners. There was some
context to the grading system. Yeah, I agree with
you. Like, so how much is Reed just carrying that team and carrying like that organization?
But you know what, man? Even a B-, like in comparison to, you know, the guy that's on their sleeve right now. I mean, God rest his soul, but like, what a disaster he was running for fucking decades. So like, for Sheila to come in and put her ego at the fucking door and bring in some of the legends that help, you know, build this place, and bring in the architects to design this to what they wanted. You know, there's so many guys behind the scenes. John Fox is on this coaching staff helping out.
But he's gone now.
Okay, so but this season, right? We had him all season. You know, you've got John Dorsey up in the front office. Like there's so many moving parts here, and she's spending a ton. I mean, not just with like the cap, but just like with this stadium, with the fan experience, from everything, you know, you talk about going on at Ford Field. You know, hiring all those guys in your front office and your coaching staff, that doesn't go against the cap, but like that's not cheap. What she's doing is not cheap. Most teams are not hiring 4 or 5 guys along, you know, along with the general manager to help them make these decisions. Most teams don't do that. No. And Sheila has no problem cutting that check. So like, this is it truly is a different era of Lions football, top to bottom. And that's what makes you believe that there's going to be some sustainability here. You're going to have your bad years. You're going to have years where, you know, shit happens. We know as Lions fans, when it rains, it pours. But for the most part, we believe, I think I could speak, and I never do this, but I feel like I could speak for most Lions fans here when I say I think that this should be, at a minimum, when we look back at this era, it will be a steady ship. It will be, we know what we're getting each week out of this team. We know what we are, and there's not going to be a lot of, you know, like as a Mets fan, you know, there's the LOL Mets nonsense. Like it was kind of like that with the Lions for so long, and it's good to know that at least I believe a lot of that's just in the past. You know, it's a new way of doing things, a new way of doing business, and that's good. and the city needs it, and this fan base needed it more than anybody else.
Yeah, I think it's just like kind of goes to the point of like a season that goes completely wrong doesn't look like going 16. It looks like 8 and 9, right? Like I think that's going to be the difference you see in it. I just think they're going to be well coached enough and well constructed enough that no matter what kind of injury hits them, they'll be able to manage it to a degree, right? Like, and I think we've seen that with their offensive line. They've only had so many games with their full health offensive lines over the last 3 years, but they continue getting better, and they're finding other guys that can kind of like chip in, set in, figure out ways to like, utilize the line and chip blocks and stuff like that to make up for some of the deficiencies. But it just seems like they know what they're fucking doing. Like, I don't know how else to put it.
They're 10-1 with their full offensive line this year. Their only loss was to Dallas.
Right.
That's it. So it should have been 11-0. There's shoot, when Pat was talking, I was going to say something that I had about the team. Man, he was talking. I forgot. But
Red Wings hat is so loud. Maybe it distracted you.
It is, right? But going
line.
about the Red Wings, it's like you're seeing what the Lions did. I don't even remember when the Pistons were winning in Detroit. Like you weren't hearing like Lions coaches talking about Larry Brown, or you weren't hearing like Tigers coaches talking about what the Pistons have done for the city and how it gets their players. Like Dan Campbell not only affected his style and the energy he brought to the city to the Lions, he installed like a culture to the whole city for just regular people, to the other sports teams that want to continue what he did. Energy, like hearing like the Red Wings head coach, tell his kids, put your phones down at 9 o'clock, time to go to bed. And he says he finds himself like at 1:30 in the morning, Googling Dan Campbell quotes. If there's a face of the Detroit right now, and I know we've talked about it, it's hands down Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Like it's not a player, it's Dan.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's always been a football city too, though. I mean, they have other sports and they have success in other sports, but like regardless, like even as bad as the Detroit Lions were at times, like they were always what everyone wanted to be good. If the people had a choice on which team gets to be good, it'd be the Lions every time.
I've had that argued so many times with people, and they said, "No, it's Hockey Town." I'm
Fuck
like,
the Hockey Town bullshit.
Like,
it's not it. No, it's football.
Hockey Town. It was called Hockey Town because the Red Wings decided to give themselves that slogan in the mid '90s.
Yeah,
and they
and
painted
they
the
were good.
logo on the ice. They did a trade. They trademarked the name, and they call themselves Hockey Town. People love hockey in
They were
Detroit,
also
so it's
able
Which
to-
I love. I do love that whole mantra. I am a fan
to
of
do
that.
that because
Yeah.
for like 25 straight years they made the playoffs. They
Yeah,
were like
they were
good.
They were a pillar
Yeah.
of the NHL. They were a
Yeah.
great team. So yeah, like you could call yourself that, and to a degree, it's accurate. It's
Had the
definitely
Lions
accurate.
been simultaneously good at that point, it would be they wouldn't be even nearly as well known or talked about. Like so.
I mean, listen, I think that they proved what kind of town it is, and it's Lions, it's
Mhm.
it's everything. It's like, I mean, the second the Lions lost to San Fran, Super Bowl prices dipped 25% on the market, but they dipped.
Yeah.
In San Fran, the amount of fans traveled. I think this is just going to carry on even more next year. I think now that people can build into their budget, be like, all right, I know I want to go to 3 Lions games next year. I know I want to go to 3 away games. People are going to build this in. People weren't doing it. Now they're expecting a good team. They're expecting to travel.
Yeah.
There's this football travel agency that does like a lot of Eagle stuff, but they're like a national thing. They organize away trips and all that stuff. Like I think they do like 6-7 teams that are most popular, but I heard that they're picking on the Lions next year. So they're introducing the Lions package just to put in the packages. So you're just gonna get more and more fans traveling. Detroit's wanted. People want to see them.
And the TV networks, man. I mean, how many
They
times
want
do
them.
how many times do we hear that quote from Roger Goodell telling Sheila, like, the networks are fighting over you?
Yeah.
How many times did we get flexed? End of the season, we got flexed like 3 or 4 times into
I
a
think-
prime time spot.
I think next year could be what happened here in Philly like, over the last couple of years. Like I think we're like Philly has like 2 1:00 games. So I expect that most of their games now on Sunday are probably going to be next year going to be already scheduled at 4:25 kickoffs. Listen, I don't think you can get scheduled more than 5 national TV games to start the season.
Yeah.
So that's
And I'll be honest
Monday.
with you, I don't
Well-
really love the primetime games.
Oh,
Like,
listen, I love a Sunday 4 o'clock game is the best time
Yeah.
for me.
Best
That's
time
best time
slot.
slot.
Best time.
Best
slot.
time slot.
Hands
Yeah.
down. Or
You can
Saturday.
enjoy the
Saturday
one-
game, I'll
you
take
can-
even more.
Yeah, I like Saturday too. You can enjoy your 1 o'clock game. You're not in a hurry. You could go with the family or do whatever you want because you're not like you need to be home right away. 12:30, be all situated. You can enjoy that. You can watch the 1 o'clock game, and then you can go right into 4 o'clock and watch your team. That's the best. When I was younger, I loved the Monday night, Sunday night. There's nothing worse. Like staying up for those games sucks.
when you're in college,
Saturday night's great.
when you're in college, like
It's the best.
Thursday night football is like the ideal time,
Yeah.
I think, because like Thursday is your new Friday when you're in college, and
Yeah.
you know that you're at a
I
bar.
still love that. I still love the
No,
Thursday night
I
game.
enjoy Thursday night football.
Because then
I
I go
like
on a
Thursday.
Friday.
I like
Friday on a
Thursday.
W, I'm barely working that day.
Well, you know what? I like Thursday. I like Thursday when it's not my team. I like just watch an NFL game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm not. It was fun.
Well-
I was just talking to someone about this show. Like I don't think I'll go to any Lions games next year that are Thursday games because those crushed me. Like trying to get back to Philly. Even if it was home, you're trying to get back. Like I'm either taking a super early flight on Friday, trying to get the back work. It screws up my whole week. So this year, I think I went to 17 games. Like next year, I'm capping myself off at probably 8. No,
Looks like we're at least gonna have. So we have 2 West Coast games. One San Fran, that'll definitely be prime time.
yeah, and
The other one's Arizona, so that will probably be at least one 425 game that's not considered like a flex or anything like that. Like,
yeah.
So there's, I mean,
The Arizona game will probably be like a 4 o'clock game.
they'll
4 or
definitely
5.
the Dallas game will definitely be prime time. San Fran will
Listen,
definitely be
San
prime time.
San Fran could be easily a Thursday night, Sunday night game. Like
I
they're gonna
think-
that's a
I think
rematch
Buffalo
of the
will
NFC.
be a prime time.
Buffalo.
Yeah,
Are we
Buffalo
playing
could-
the whole? What we're playing Buffalo? What? Oh, that's
No,
like our extra game?
that's the division, the extra divisional game,
Yeah,
the 17th
okay.
game, and they finished in first, so we
was gonna
finished in
say.
first.
Yeah.
But they're in trouble next year, Buffalo. I'm like really interested to see how that roster plays out. Like I believe they're 55 million over the cap. Maybe they're down to like 40 now with the difference in like cap saving, but they're in a big they got.
let's check it out.
They got a list of issues.
That's definitely gonna be one I go to because I have a lot. Like my wife's from upstate New York, so a lot of
Is that game in Buffalo?
it's gonna be in Detroit. So I'm gonna get a lot of the friends that are like Buffalo fans to go out there and show them around.
Okay. Since we already started with, I think, the word roster at some point here, do we want to get into Lions roster going into next season a little bit?
Yeah, we can touch on it. I mean, we obviously got to see how the way you never know who's gonna get cut, how
Right,
it's gonna shake out. But yeah, we can. I'm
I think my vision with this was kind of go through these position groups and
Yeah.
see where we know, whether it be through free agency, through the draft, where we think they're going to progress, or where they need to progress, where they need to improve. The first one, it's I guess maybe an elephant in the room. I think most fans agree on this. It's CB1. I think Sutton did a fine job this year. I think people really laid into this guy. But he was never a true number one corner. He was never really brought here to do that. That was supposed to be Mosley.
Yeah.
Mosley tears his ACL. There's really nothing you could do about that. Sutton is thrown into a spot. And he was going up against literally some of the best receivers in the league in the end of the season. You know,
had a
you're
tough
talking
run.
about, NFC Championship, Ayuk and Debo, Mike Evans in the divisional, Puka Nakua in the first round, Justin Jefferson twice in the last 3 weeks of the regular season, CD Lamb, so I think the guy was a little unfairly criticized.
I don't think he did as bad as people are making it out to be.
No, that's
Yeah.
really my point.
Yeah.
But I do think if you want to be a team that wants to solidify themselves as a Super Bowl contender, and you want to have a great defense, you need a true CB1.
Yeah.
Now, there's some guys coming out in the draft, and we'll touch on a lot of that next week. But I think off the bat, we could agree that's somewhere they need to improve.
I think it's pretty after hearing discussions this weekend in Indy. I think it's pretty from everything it's saying the Lions have made it pretty loud and clear that they're going after a high end DB. So if that's any of the rumors that multiple people are reporting, I think the Lions are going to go after someone, and I agree. I mean, listen, you want two good corners. You want hopefully that, whichever side the number one receiver, both of them can help out.
Right.
So, I think that's. Sorry, Milo's trying to get in.
Yeah, I just heard. Down. I thought I heard him. Yeah, he's down the stairs now.
I don't know if I'm a fan of the rumors about Snead. I don't think Snead is a top 5, 6, 7 top corner in the league.
He just got
to give
the
up
franchise tag.
Yeah, but the whole time
but
yesterday. Yes, but the whole time Kansas City was saying we're going to franchise tag and try to give him the chance to explore a trade. So it's only been done 6 times in the NFL before that a player gets a franchise tag and then he's traded. The team trades his rights. But 2 out of the 6 times has been Kansas City. They did it with
Tyreek
one
Hill.
time. No,
No,
they did it. Yeah, no, Tyreek Hill I think was done in the last year of his deal when they traded him. I just heard it today. They did it with Clark. Was there DN Clark with Seattle?
Oh, Frank Clark.
Frank Clark. They acquired Frank Clark. No, they traded someone to San Fran. They acquired a DN from a Seattle one year, and then the other time they did just a couple years ago, they traded someone to San Francisco. So
Listen, at the end of the day, too, if it's there's sacrifices that you have to make, and I'm not saying that that's one that you have to, but like when you're in a position that the Lions are in, where they know that they're good enough to go to a Super Bowl, they were on the doorstep last year. They know a lot of these guys are returning. If you're putting your chips into the middle, there are some deals where you're going to look at and say, like, that's a lot to give up. But at the same rate, if you believe that is a guy that could put you over the top, then it's worth doing. And that's not me making a case for Snead, Sheed, whatever the fuck his name is. But, sometimes those are like the tough decisions you have to make. And they're not always the best decisions, but if it takes you to where you think you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, for example, what San Francisco did with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I want to say that was 2 first-round picks they gave up for him.
no, they gave up I don't even think it was a first round pick. They gave up like a 3rd and a 5th for Christian McCaffrey.
I think
Yeah,
it was
because
like-
I mean,
And it was in season too.
you look at like injury history,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, it's like he still had a $15 million price tag. So like
Yeah.
you're taking a huge risk, and I mean, obviously it worked out because
Carolina's paying most of that though. Carolina took on like the majority.
Oh,
of the
maybe,
contract,
but, like,
which is
I
the-
Yeah,
That's
but then they had to re-up him. Like,
Yeah.
he was on a last year of a deal, I think, when they traded him. So it made sense to them. And then they also San Fran made him the highest paid. So Snead, for the word is the word is that from what I was listening today is
second, third, fourth, and fifth round picks.
for what?
Which is
For
so weird. That was
from McCaffrey?
Second, third, fourth in 2023, and a 5th round pick this year, 2024.
For who's this?
The
McCaffrey?
Yes, last October, the Panthers traded Pro Bowl running back Christian McCaffrey for a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round pick in 2023 and a 5th round pick in 2024.
Well, San Fran gets like 7. San Fran has like 8 third-round picks because they keep on hiring all their coaches. So for them to give up a 3rd-round pick is like no big deal. Yeah, because I think they had from last year they had the Salah extra 3rd-round pick. They had the guy for Houston. They had they also had what's his name, our old May, who got hired
Martin
by
Mayhew,
the Commanders. They got a 3rd-round pick, and they got another one from somewhere else. Plus, I'm sure they lost a couple of players in free agency, so they had a couple 3rd-round picks. But from what it's like, I just reading and listening to a couple of podcasts today, like what's believed to get Snead will be like a 2nd and a 5th round pick.
That's not
to
that
acquire.
bad. I'd make that.
It's not bad, but when then you got to pay $20 million.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem you run into at
If
this
he was
point,
12, 13 million, sure, but
Well, this kind of comes back to what they think they're gonna do with the Goff contract, right? Because like, if you think and I know that you could manipulate where you put that money, I get that, but it's no matter how you manipulate it, it's a massive cap hit, right? So, if they think they're gonna re-sign Goff this offseason or next, then that becomes a hard thing to do. But if the idea is that maybe they want him to play on the last year of his deal, and then they want to franchise him once or twice,
well,
I'm
that's
not
gonna
saying
make that's gonna make it harder to sign guys.
if you franchise him, it's got to be what, if you
60
franchise
million.
him-
It's gonna be high 50s. That's the worst thing that could happen if they have to franchise tag him.
Yeah, franchising anyone is typically a disaster.
Because if you franchise him right now, like let me see, I'll pull it over right now by position. And I'll tell you for next year, you get the average of the top 5 players at your position, or you get a 20% increase. But he's only making like 35, so it wouldn't be 20%. So for 2025, if you go positions, quarterback, got it right here. So this is for this year. Let me see if I can pull up next year. Okay, let's just go by this year. So this year you have Joe Burrow to 55, Justin Herbert 52, Lamar Jackson 52, Jalen Hurts 51, and Russell Wilson 50. So this year you'd get like 51 million. Next year, if they have to franchise tag him, I'm sure all these numbers are going up. I don't know why you can't look at it by next year.
Next year, if you
Well, you gotta look at like who's still due, because it looks like those are just named like the top guys in the NFL. So it doesn't seem like anyone's breaking those contracts too much bigger, unless they redo a Mahomes contract and he gets another like 10.
Supposedly, Dak is in the process of.
Well, my point about these contracts is that, like, let me say, my point is that next year you have to take the top 5 if you have to franchise him, not sign him.
Right.
So if you want to franchise him, and like Joe Burrow next year, it's 55 this year, but what is it? His cap hit for 2025 is 57 million.
Yeah.
So meaning like the average number is probably gonna be 55, 54, 55. Because I think also like I believe Jalen Hurts jumps up a lot.
See, I just look at it like I got to imagine the cap will go up a few mil each year, and that would just offset regardless of how you approach it. My only thing is like, do you want to ruffle those feathers and kind of create that narrative by the media of like, oh, they're not signing them, and like that's the all I don't want. I don't want that shit like being a fucking storyline. That's all I care about. I don't want like the media running with some bullshit like that. Like I'm cool with them franchise tagging them if like it was a mutual like, hey, for cap reasons and to continue building this team to the best we possibly can and like be like kind of working with this budget year to year, we just want to franchise you if we have to. Are you good with that? I'd rather sign a contract. Okay, we'll do a contract. Like if it's an agreed to thing,
short term,
I think
doesn't even help you. It
franchise is the worst thing that could happen. Like it's not the worst, but like you're not saving money. You're paying all of it up front. It's all hitting your cap that year. You're not being able to get creative with it. It's the worst.
The only good part about a franchise tag is like if the guy doesn't have.
But
a good
hold
season,
on. But this is what happens. You say you could franchise tag him twice. So let's just say he's 55 million next year, and you franchise tag him because you didn't come to an agreement. Now the next year you can't come to an agreement with him, and let's say Hooker doesn't show anything in preseason or anything. Or he's just not doing what he. Let's just say he's doing bad, or he gets injured.
I think that's the conversation. You have a full year until you have to use it.
I'm just saying he is looking bad. So, but I'm just explaining the franchise tag. Let's say the following year, Goff don't want to sign a contract. He's like, franchise tag me again. Do you know what that number becomes the next year?
It's exponentially bigger. It's now.
Now you don't fall under the 5 top players.
Yeah.
It's either top 5 player average or 20% raise. So now you would go from 55 million to that's 10 million. Now you're at 66, 67 million dollars a year. This is why the quarterback, this is what happened with Kirk Cousins to the Redskins. He says, sure, keep franchise tagging me because they didn't have another option. Now, what I think is scary about this Goff situation here is I think the Lions do want to sign him, but they're hoping he's giving them a hometown discount. And for 3 years, maybe around 45 million. And he says, no, I want to be 55 million. I deserve 55 million. Lions are like, well, let's play another year and see if you deserve that. Now he might, but and it's a gamble he's going to make. Who knows if you get hurt and Hendon comes in and Hendon looks great, but it also could screw the Lions if
Hendon's not ready. It screws the Lions, absolutely, right? But I think that there's a mutual interest here in both parties staying, right?
But don't you think the Lions would sign him? If everyone's saying, hey, I think 45 million would get it done, you got such a bargain for $45 million. Especially, let's say like for Pat, always says 3 years, 45 million.
Yeah, I'd do it.
Do it in a heartbeat. But you know what? They're not doing it because he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, and like, but that's the thing. So like, if you look at Russell Wilson, you never know when the floor's going to fall beneath somebody, and they're now 80 mil in debt, dropping a guy.
I think that
there's a million ways to look at the conversation.
I
and
think
what
that there were different issues with Russell. I think the first issue.
Russell's much older. Russell's also.
I don't think it's so much an
also-
age thing. I think,
But Russell also like got the highest paid by far when he signed that deal.
I think there's the
was a
issue
bad
with Russell
begin with.
has two sides to it. Like the first side is one that's become pretty evident. He's not a very well liked guy. So like when you're not like anyone, when you're playing with someone you really don't like, you're I don't care what you say, you're just not playing at your best. When you cannot stand the guy that's throwing you the football and you can't stand blocking for the guy, like it's not the same thing. And I think Goff is a much more personable guy. He's much more well liked within the organization than Russ was there. And I think the difference too is that Russell was traded to a situation where like didn't really play into his skill set the first season. And now this second year with Sean Payton, Sean came in not liking Russell to begin with.
No.
So like that was destined to fail. Sean Payton took that job basically saying, I'm not married to this guy. And if it don't work after a year, I'm picking my quarterback. Like that was part of that deal. I think Goff is in a much more different situation. They play into what he does best. And I think it's mutually beneficial for both parties to continue this relationship, right?
Having stability goes a long way.
Yes.
And you can't, like, again, I can sit here and fault him for all these small things, but at the end of the day, he's playing good football in a system that works incredibly well for his skill set. So like, if that works, does it falter one day? We don't fucking know, but you got to play as if it's not going to. You got to sign guys if it's not going to, as if what you're doing is going to continue working for how you believe in this, how you're building it. It's going to continue working. And if it stops working, then you address it then. But until then,
And you know, people talk about the aging process, but like if you keep this guy upright like you have, and you've got a strong offensive line in front of him, and he's not getting the shit beat out of him week after week, like you really do slow down.
So listen. So really quickly, I messed up. I was reading you guys the salaries from 2023 top played quarterbacks. So this is just for 2024, just to show you. Deshaun Watson this year, 63.9 million.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott 59. Patrick Mahomes 58, almost 59. Kyler Murray 51. Stafford 49.5. That's the top five for 2024. So that means right there to franchise already this year, a quarterback would be like 57 million. So next year it would probably be like 62 million.
It's
if
not
we
a
def-
good. It's
Do
not a
they-
good
but
situation.
do they-
if they
so
were to do that?
are they
100%.
weighting it by year and not the actual full contract?
What do you mean?
I mean, the way teams
So
break down the contract.
if I'm getting 4 years, 50 mil, that person makes 50 mil. But if I offset it through year 3, he's getting 60 of that.
Whichever way
You
you,
know what I
move
mean?
it, whatever way you move it, the cap.
I think they're
hit
going the
where you-
average year of the contract and then the average of those top 5 people. Because
No, that's not how it works. It goes by. It
Well,
doesn't go like that.
So say everything fell in a bad way where like every quarterback was in their highest paid year and it just ended up being 70 million to the franchise guy because everyone pushed their money off to that year.
Yeah.
This wouldn't really make sense.
Yeah. Well, you know why we couldn't re-sign Ndamukong Suh? Because Tom Lawan and Martin Mayhew off his rookie deal kept pushing the money back. So even though he was on the one deal, they pushed all the money to his 5th year. They made him re-sign his signing bonus, and he actually was like a $30 million cap hit that year. And the reason we couldn't franchise Ndamukong Suh, because why wouldn't you franchise the best defensive tackle in football? They couldn't do it because his cap hit would have been 20% higher because he's already making more money. Even though he made a lot of money, that's what happens when you push your money back. Ndamukong Suh, the cap hit was like $38 million that year. Because the
also
Lions
really
pushed the
helped.
money back, the bonuses, even though you paid him when he signed his rookie deal, to give yourself more cap space, you spread it out towards the back of the deal, and they screwed themselves.
It also really helped that he was going to a place that was guaranteeing him a ton of money.
But we would
no state income tax.
But we would have franchise tagged him if
Yes,
his cap number should have been like 18 million.
Yeah.
But we pushed
Listen.
his number cap hit so much back, the money back and back and back, even though he already got paid that money. We just did it and pushed it back.
At the end of the day, I think, as I said before, it's mutually beneficial for them to continue this relationship on both ends. I think it's beneficial to the Lions just based off what we've seen in the past 2 years, and I think it's beneficial to Goff as well. You know, like could he leave here and make more money? I mean, I guess yeah, sure. If somebody wants to pay him more than the Lions, absolutely. But where are you going to go where you're going to find a place that needs a quarterback and also has the assets Detroit has at your disposal. You know, where are you going to go with a top 3 offensive line that needs a quarterback? Not Kansas City.
Top
not
3
Philly,
offensive line, top receivers, top running backs. Like you're not gonna at that top coordinator.
Exactly.
You're not gonna land in that same situation. Fucking
Exactly.
anywhere that needs a quarterback.
And if you're the Lions and you're not totally sold, like if you're telling me if Dan Campbell is like 100% sold on Hendon Hooker, okay, well then that's great. Now you don't have to pay a quarterback. Great. But like if you're not 100% sold on that guy, you need to stick with what you know and what you've seen. You know, you've seen this guy take you on a playoff run. You've seen this guy be consistent. You know, he's got.
I still think there's a shot that, like, you know, when all those articles came out and said that that Lions are not going to re-sign Jared Goff and they're going to let him play out the last year. No one said that. Like, nowhere was that said by any Detroit Lion. Brad Holmes didn't say it. I think Woodward Sports ran with that because of the way Brad Holmes said, I'm not going to talk about contracts right now. He said, only contracts I talk about is when they're signed. Like, that's it that was said. Nothing was ever talked about. So I still think there's a chance that Jared Goff does give them the discount a little bit. I don't think it's going to be at 40, 45. I still think it's going to take $50 million to get it done. But I think there's a shot to get it done. And you know what? It'd be good to get it done because they can move more of his money back and they can create more cap space for this year.
Well, what we do know, to kind of move this along a little bit, we know Goff is here no matter what next year, right? We know he's our guy. He's QB1. That leads us to some other things. Do you guys kind of have a direction here in terms of defense? What do you think is more of a...
Before we jump, let's stick on the same side of the ball because I think Powell said something like, not on this, but like last time we were chatting, like 2 things. Because one, I think there's going to be some level of reinvestment in the draft and the offensive line because if you're going to re-sign Goff, you got to make sure there's guys that are going to be developing behind these guys in case of injury or in case you don't want to sign a guy like Jonah Jackson. You got to have like the next man up kind of continuity. I think we got Decker and Panay kind of, you know, in there outside injury, nothing's happening. Yeah. Frank, we'll see how like he goes year to year. I hope we'll see what happens, but hopefully he's just here for
you have him next year. You know you have Frank next year, right?
Glasgow probably getting re-signed. I got to imagine that. So you're probably still looking for a guard if they don't think they got a guy that can step up. And outside that, we'll get back to what Powell said. I do think I'm getting hot and heavy on Lions going day 2 big body receiver. I don't know why. The more I'm looking into this thing, I'm like, they haven't had one. Reynolds is probably gone because this is his last chances of the payday. I don't think the Lions are going to give it to him because they got to pay Brown. So he's going to go probably get the most money he can in free agency. So they need someone a little bigger. And I'd probably like to see someone like a bigger frame than he had. Like just someone a little larger, someone that can get like 50-50 balls, big body, can box guys out, great like red zone kind of dude. Like a different trick to give like the Goff and the offense to scheme around. And I think like that's something Powell said last time we were all chatting. That's like I'm getting so heavy on that wagon recently.
I mean, look at they brought in, I think they had 4 receiver interviews. I don't know if you saw it. And every receiver, one
of them was like a first round like projection.
Well, the smallest one was 6'2" and like 3/4, and like they all weigh like 215 and plus. So I do think like if it wasn't like, listen, I think the Lions would have actually made a play for Mike Evans. I think they would have. I think they liked him. He got signed today, but I do think that I said this: if like Coleman falls to them from Florida State at 26 in the first round or 28, 29 first round, I could see them going that route. I was like kind of not debating with my one buddy today on the phone, and he kept talking about need. I said they're not going to draft off a need, like in this draft. Like they've been clear about this. Like they're going to draft the best available. So listen, the best available might be they're trading up because they're like, holy shit, we had this guy's a top 10 guy and he fell to 16. Or they're going to be like the draft is kind of going the way we thought it should go.
Right.
And you know what, like. But then it's going to come down to, hey, this guy like right around us is we could take him. You know, they're not going to go like we need a guard center. We're taking a guard center in the first round because that's it. Because 4 other guys are taken. Like this is going to be like Brad Holmes said it. He said the draft, you take the best talented player. Free agency, you go after needs. You know. So that's when you go after, you know, you're not going to go be like, well, we got $20 million. Like this is the best talented player in free agency. Let's just go throw $20 million at him. They're going to go after guys that they can fill needs in the draft. Being where they're at is like, You know, it could,
And they've
it
got to
could- it-
retain some of their own talent. They've got to spend money to retain their own guys. We just talked about St. Brown.
Yeah.
That's a contract that
St. Brown will
looks like
probably
it's
get done
gonna be-
any day. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Brown-
sure.
It sounds like he's the furthest along from like everything you see. Seems like he's the furthest along getting signed.
I think, listen, he's going to get done. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he gets done before free agency starts next week. At this point next week, we might already have 2-3 different Detroit Lions on the team. I think it starts at 4:00 or noon.
Legal tampering starts. Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree. I think Josh Reynolds 6'3", but Josh Reynolds has a small frame. Like, you need a guy
He's
that's
skinny, yeah.
powerful. You need a guy that can box out. You need a guy that can muscle someone. And I think that's the next thing that could take this offense to that next level. Like, maybe that was the difference on that 4th and 3, just getting a big body, turn around, throw him the ball, strong hands, big hands. You know, that's what they need to add to this team on offense, you know. And I agree with you. Offensive line is huge. But you know what? They're never going to let this offensive line they're never going to ignore it.
I think it's certainly what Brad Holmes does best. And we've seen it time and time again.
He walked into a good situation too, though.
I was gonna say, like, we
walked
can't give him
into-
any
he
credit
walked-
on the offensive line yet. Like, Panay Sewell was a home run, but like he was
Yeah.
considered
But
a
there
home
was
run.
discussion there. I mean, you know, go back to that
on who to
time in
take, yeah. But
2021.
Panay
There
Sewell
a
was
lot of
largely looked
discussion.
at a home
And
run.
there was
Where?
a lot of people that said
What?
that was not the best pick. I wanted
Yeah,
Panay,
but they
and I'm
jumped
happy.
like crazy the second he got available. Remember the pick came in, whoever had before us, and they're like, yeah.
And
They
if
jump
you-
around.
if
And
you
they went up to that clock because the NFL got mad at them because they went to the podium with
Right
with
away.
like
No
3
hesitation.
minutes. Like, they didn't even
No
fuck
hesitation.
around. Yeah.
But that's the thing too, though.
But he
It's
came
like
in a Ragnow, Decker,
Yeah.
And Jonah Jackson.
everybody. The whole
Jonah
line.
Vitae was signed. So at least, like, I mean, listen, he's a good locker room guy. I mean, yeah, he came into a good situation.
Vitae was good. He just couldn't stay healthy. I think he is a good player. He just can't stay healthy. Like, when he's
Yeah.
on the field, he's one of the best run blockers. Like, him and Sewell next to each other, run blocking was was poetry in motion. It was beautiful.
Which I don't know if I have to look up Vitae's contract, but I just judging off
He's
everything
gone.
we've heard,
He's
I
gone.
think he's done.
He's
I think he's done with football.
He's a free
I
agent. He's
think-
done.
I think
Yeah.
he's
Vitae-
got to like hang it up at this point.
Vitae-
He's at that size.
He's a free agent anyways, and he made his deal like 1 year, but then we have dead money for him. I think it's same thing with Romy Akawari. There's like, I believe
Yeah, there's some.
there's
dead
like
money
three and a
attached to
half
those
million
guys.
in dead cap.
Um,
Good thing is we have no dead cap next year. Like, all the dead cap is what we created last year, move contract money around.
Mhm.
So they can still
I
do
think,
that.
I think it's like 23 mil right now. Some of it,
Yeah.
some of it will end up, I think, in extensions and being spread out and not dead cap. It's
there's
some
no
guys on
dead
the
cap
team.
from Tracy Walker next
Yeah,
year.
he's
There
7
is.
mil.
There's 7. It says there's 7 million.
No, I'm
There's
saying
like- so we have-
2025.
we have
there's no-
20
It's
No.
7.3.
All that
Vitai's
shit.
3.
Yeah.
Vitai's 3.8. Romeo's 3.5. Chauncey Gardner's 2. Charles Harris is 1.9. None of this you can move around. This is just dead money. These guys aren't here anymore. Teddy Bridgewater is $500,000, and this isn't dead money. This is when they signed a contract. They moved the money to an extra year.
Yep.
Right.
You know, so
Which
ma-
Holmes has
May-
done on almost every contract. So I think that's just like how he just to allocate a little bit of cushion. He seems like he always pushes a mil or 2 mil.
they might be able to go back and try to give Marvin Jones money credit for it, but I don't know if they'll do that.
But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I feel like there's offensive, not like pressing needs, but like I think there's definitely stuff that could be done in the draft or like depth guys. But I do think it's gonna be more draft oriented for like offensive line and receiver guys that think they can develop on cheap contracts that they can kind of get in the house and develop their way. Not so much trying to take like a guy and like they've tried the remold thing the first couple of years with a handful of Charles Harris, some other guys, and like they found some bright spots, but never really worked out for any of these guys outside Josh Reynolds.
But the Lions don't have receivers.
We have bad depth after the.
We have.
We got
Ahmad-
Laporta is pretty much a receiver in himself. So like
yeah, but
that's
we need another. Listen, the other day I was like thinking, like, what if they did go tight end early in the
could.
second again,
with
and
the
they
way
wanted to build that double-headed monster if a tight end drops to them.
Imagine running up in like fuck, was it 12 personnel, the 2 tight ends, and then you have 2 stud pass catchers, both guys that can block, and you just kick one of them out in the slot on motion, throw them in motion, do all kinds of crazy shit.
And Ben Johnson
Or just run the ball.
loves the tight end position, loves it, loves
Because
it.
they're extra blockers if you need
yeah.
them.
I think
and they
if
can
there's
rank back.
anything we could criticize them on late in the season, because we saw it a lot September and October, especially with the warm weather. We saw a lot of those deep passes. I think as the season progressed, Ben was kind of few and far between with that. I think if there's something that we want to see more of consistently in 2024, it's utilizing the deep pass.
1,000,000%.
Goff has the arm to do it. He's got the accuracy to do it. And we've got receivers.
But did you say so? I'm not trying to compare him, but like I thought this stat was just like crazy. So I saw a stat today, and maybe you guys saw the same one. It showed Patrick Mahomes the average yards the ball traveled on all his touchdowns. So when his first year to like his second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, it's like crazy. So like, what do you think the average yards the ball traveled? I'm not saying like it was a 20-yard touchdown, but the ball went like say 18 yards. The guy took the last 2-yard step. So the average travel, the ball went from out of Mahomes to yards like per touchdown this year.
That's an odd thing.
Well, he had garbage receivers, so I can't imagine.
20 yards,
Very good.
20 yards on average, maybe?
No.
3.6. All his touchdowns. So, but listen, and I don't remember, but look at this. I was like looking at the statistic. Today they had it. His first year, it was like 13.9 yards. Then it went like 11 point something. Then it went like 8 point something. Every single year it went consistently down. Then it went to like 6. Then last year it was like 4.9. Like this year it was like 3.6. But I think that takes just to how teams play you and just knowing how smart you get as a quarterback and understand the dinks and dong and setting things up and teams not being confused on what you're going to do. Like that's like the beauty. Like we talk about this strong arm, throwing the ball, and of course you need it. Like seeing Josh Allen, they said it yesterday on the combine. One guy threw the ball like 60, I think 2 yards in the air. And they're like, there's only one touchdown this year. The ball actually traveled more than 62 yards in the air. That's from where he releases it to traveling, not from the yard of scrimmage. And just
you on average don't have that much time to wait to throw at 62.
And it was Josh Allen. I believe they said he had like a 63-yard pass in the air. And that's traveling. So if he's 10 yards, and I don't know where he threw it, if he was 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage or if he was 15 yards behind, but the ball's only aired for 63 yards. Like I think the biggest thing in the NFL, the way it's going, it's time. The biggest thing that I noticed with JMO and Jared Goff has not to do with his arm. Is they can't still figure out to get the timing down when to get rid of the ball. And hopefully now they could work on that in the offense.
I think a lot of that is developed in not so much OTAs, but like training camp. That's where you have the time to do that. And unfortunately, like 2 years ago, he wasn't able to. He was come back from a torn ACL last year. He was able to, but then he got hurt. I think he had that.
But even in training camp, when he got as soon as the first 6 games got announced that he's going to be missing, like he was practicing with the 2s, like he's not running with the 1s. I mean, I think Brad Holmes now said like he's going to, he has it now. His job now is to go earn and be the starter. So hopefully they get that down. But like, even like the Rams game, like there's a couple shots that I think Goff took at him. And like, I'm like, put some more air. Sometimes I think like he thinks he doesn't have as much time to get air under it. So it was like a laser that went like 40 yards. And like, I think that JMO, I mean, we're going to have track here, but like, I think JMO needs to do a better job of getting his head turned around sometimes in these deep balls. I feel like it's not always
He's
turned around.
He's a little bit of a free spirit. Spirit. No
but going back to it's that stat, I just thought, and I don't know how we got talking about, like, I think we got talking about receivers and tight ends. It's just the more weapons and the way Ben Johnson sets up guys in space. I said it, like, I would not be surprised if they go grab a tight end high again. Especially, I think Brock Wright's a free agent.
I'd be he is.
I'm not
just
saying
Zylstra, which
I'm not saying second. Maybe it's a 3rd round pick somewhere, but like I would not be surprised if they pick a tight end somewhere. If the right guy falls to them.
I think it depends on what you see them do in free agency. Like there's a clear need on the D line, right? If you want to argue D tackle, if you want to argue edge, whatever argument, they're valid both ways. But you need pressure. Like you just need more pressure. Aiden Hutchinson is a tremendous talent, but he can't do it on his own on that one side, right? So you need help in that department. So if they go and they sign, just for example, a Danielle Hunter in the next week or so, then we know, like, okay, probably not signing an edge, probably not drafting an edge in that on day 1 or 2. Once again, unless that comes to you, it's probably not something you're going to do, right? But if they go into the NFL
wait a second, well, what if someone Brad Holmes says best available guy, talent,
there's best available not guy, but like there's holes that got to be filled. And
You
gotta
drafted
be-
Brian Branch. You traded up and gave up assets to go get Brian Branch, who plays CJ Gardner's position.
CJ was here on a 1-year deal. Brian was a rookie. Like that.
I see. I don't. I think. I think.
I.
I easily could see them drafting an end and also signing an end.
Sure. Listen, nothing that they do would shock me. I'm just saying, just looking at it logically, if you see them go after a big name target in free agency, they're probably going to another hole in the draft. That's just kind of my.
So let's talk here for how many holes when you really see holes that they need, because when I look at holes, I see opposite side of Cam Sutton, DB1, if you want to call Sutton 2.
I think that's the number one hole. I think CB1 is the number
I
one
think
hole.
at linebacker they're good unless someone surprisingly drops them, and they with Maben, Rodrigo, Barnes, Campbell started playing like a stud at the end of the year, Anzalone, and I think Pittman still. You got 6 guys.
Well, you also got to look at this. So Barnes, are you going to re-sign him? This is last year. You got Anzalone, who's going to be on his way out after next year. So do you want to get the guy this year to start developing, or do you want to just kind of sit pat? But I'm with you. I think CB1 is hands down the most important position. I don't think you can address that strictly. That has to be done free agency, and you have to trade. You have to get a guy that has proven he can play in the NFL.
CB1, I think you can address with both. I think you could go out and sign a guy that could play right now, and I wouldn't be shocked if Kool-Aid McKinstry, for example, came to them at 28, 29, and just like the way you talked about receiver or tight end, this is way too good to pass up.
This is a
guy for the future.
Yeah, 100%. I think you could do that.
That would not shock me either.
Listen, they don't have a lot of depth at corner. Like, who do they have? Cam Sutton, Lucas, and
Kendall Vildor, I think
he's not. He was on a practice squad. He's a 1-year deal.
They don't have a lot.
They don't got nobody. No one really wants him back, but Jacobs is a free agent.
Khalil Dorsey's going to free agents.
Mosley's gone. But the good thing is they really just play with 2 real corners, because you got Branch who plays at nickel. But you need to add a couple. You need to add in free agency either a depth guy or a starter.
You need a tier 1 free agent, and you need a day 1 or 2 cornerback. Like, that's just it. Like, you have.
If I looked at the lines now, I know they got guys that could go tackle or end. But if I look at them, is a D tackle, you got two true D tackles that I actually think could play on the roster, and that's I mean, not like one that has to develop, but 2 guys that I think will be here next year is obviously McNeil and Broderick Martin. After that, they got nobody signed.
Yeah.
Panino Jones is not here. Isaiah Bugg's not here. I know Kaminsky can come inside. I know Pascal can. But what I'm saying is they got to go probably draft another D tackle somewhere if it's late, and they also have to go sign a D tackle somewhere if it's bringing.
I think he's bringing back a tackle person. We don't know.
And you could, yeah. And listen,
you don't know what he's going to be yet. So it's like we really have like Liam McNeil, and like that's really the only D tackle.
Well, that's why I agree. I think like you rotate 4 true D tackles on your team. Maybe only 3 dress, but 4. You got 4, and I think you got McNeil, Broderick, who might be the 4th best one, and then you got to go get 2 other guys. Now at the end, it's the same thing. Romeo's gone. Charles Harris is gone. So next year you have guys who I think can play. I think Kaminsky, if he doesn't get cut, is like more of he should be a role player. He should be like Hutchinson has his hands on this and needs to be like, I need someone to come in for one play right now. Yes. And he should be a locker room guy. Yes. He could go in he could set up an edge on a big 4th and 1, but he should be a role player. So then at the end you have Pascal, James Houston,
Hutch. That's kind of it.
And then Kaminsky can go in or out of both those. Yeah. But you have to go get a Danielle Hunter and also probably draft a guy. So they probably need to bring 3-4 different D guys in.
Pascal in college he rotated on all over the line as well. So
yeah,
he can play interior. Like he just hasn't had the reps. He's like started to look good last year. He wasn't looking bad, but like it's really his first year. So it's like hopefully takes a big step in year 3.
And I saw like the Lions wish Levi Aguirre a happy birthday today and posted on their Instagram. So I'm like, well, maybe they're gonna keep Levi. So I mean, listen, Levi, He's still
I
under
think
a
it's
1
just
year.
one of those things. He's contracted here. It's his birthday.
He's contracted. Why cut him? Like you draft him in the second round. Like unless some team's gonna be like, listen, we'll give you a 7th for him. But maybe he's still here.
Levi's a weird one because he always graded out really well for PFF, but like I just felt like I never saw him. Like he would make a play here or there, but that was it. I think he's a guy that if you bring someone in and if you think that you could definitely improve on what you have there, then yeah. But I'm not in a rush to cut him, but I'm not going to defend.
Oh, let's not forget about our boy Mateo Betts. I don't understand how that guy's going to make the team. I don't think he is.
Who?
Mateo Betts from Canadian Football League.
He's like a
Oh
defensive
fuck,
end.
the defensive player of the year, the CFL.
Listen,
right?
when I saw him standing, I'm just assuming this guy's like 6'6".
I think
then
he might
after-
make the team.
He's
I think
6
100%.
foot. He's 6 foot, like 200, like 75 pounds. He looks slow. I saw him make a sack on a guy in a Canadian Football League, and it was like it took him forever to get there.
It's CFL, man. It's
Well, the CFL, the field's much wider, so the QB does have a lot more room to play with.
also
Who is Jake Funk?
he was an old tight end that transitioned to running back, if memory serves. Jake Funk,
But he's on a roster for $1 million.
he was a tight end for how can I remember the school?
He's a running back. You're right.
But I think he was a tight end of Jack Funk, right?
The Rams drafted him in 2021. So Jake Funk, he's 5'10", 205. So he'd be a small tight end, but
We
I know he was running back in college. That's Maryland. I only know that because of Temple. So like he was in Maryland. Okay.
we are getting in the weeds a little bit here.
Yeah.
Once we start naming guys with the last name Funk, then
Yeah, I mean,
Making $1 million.
I'm just looking at the roster. For
I
next year.
think we're on the same page. It's like I think we all know like defensive line, whether it's tackle, edge, like there's got to be some level of addition there. CB1's the biggest need without a doubt, and then like do you have a developmental linebacker because it's coming to the first draft re-signings. Who you keeping? Who's going? You can't keep them all, so some of these guys are going to be gone, and now is where you got to start kind of getting guys in position to develop the backfielder position. So now we're at that point in the franchise, right? Which is exciting. It's like, and Powell thinking nailed it actually. It's like you take who the best guy is. If they're a good player, you'll figure out how to use them. Like you can't have too many good edge rushers. You can't have too many good defensive linemen because all that means is they're going to be fresher. If they're all on rookie contracts, who gives a shit? You're not paying anyone any money. So like I'm just looking at, I don't care what, every position should not ever be off the table. I don't care if it's your quarterback, your stud receiver, everyone, you should, if you have a chance to upgrade that position, you fucking do it. Like if you can upgrade on your best player, your best receiver, why wouldn't you want to do that? It's like,
I mean,
shit.
this is kind of the good thing. As deep as this team is, we all agree they could probably use another offensive lineman. They could use another receiver. They could use probably a running back 3. They could use
I think they'll bring back Craig. I think they'll bring back Reynolds.
I agree with you. But like if they went 4th round and drafted a running back, you'd be like, okay, like you got a running back. You could use another tight end. You know, if it's 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, you can use a DB. You could use a third safety, especially if CJ Gardner doesn't come back. You could use a D tackle. You could use a D end.
Gardner's gone.
Maybe like you said, like I thought linebackers full, but yeah, you know what? Rodrigo might be gone soon. They might be able to trade someone. So at every position, it wouldn't shock me if they trade. At every position seems like they have 2-3 good players at it, but you need more guys, and they'll figure it out. Injuries happen. Like, listen, when I sat there at Pat at the Seattle game, and it was like, fuck, Montgomery's crying with his hand in his head, getting carted off. There goes James Houston on the cart. Wow, there goes Kirby Joseph got hurt on the first drive. CJ Gardner's holding his shoulder.
it
there
looked
was
like things were going downhill.
and then I was like, and then I'm like, fuck. And then I remember going to Atlanta game being like, and then you just, because of depth and guys being there for 2-3 years and coming in and they were just ready. Next guy up, confidence going. And, you know, it's, you never have enough guys at any position. And I think that what made the Lions good last year is they didn't have a strong 35-man roster. They had a strong 53.
Yeah.
You know, and that carried them. Like Emmanuel Mosley gone down. Like we were rotating there, and other guys were carrying them. So Kirby Joseph went down for a game. There's a time in Tampa Bay we didn't have Montgomery, we didn't have Gibbs, and we have Craig Reynolds running the ball. Yeah. So to their credit, like they can continue just building this team, a strong 53 guys, and I think they'll be in good hands next year. So,
so I don't believe we said this, but at some point, well, I guess amongst the three of us, we'll figure it out. Either toward the end of Stevie Mack chimed in today, so it was good. Good to get a response from Stevie today. He's always
tell Stevie is we have 50 million, not 40 million.
Yeah, Stevie's a Cowboys fan. His math isn't too great. We will be jumping back on here probably this weekend or at some point next week to get a little update with free agency and kind of give us a clearer picture of what this roster will look like in 2024. So stay tuned to our social media, our Twitter. I almost just called it Twittergram, Instagram, and our Twitter. We'll let you know when we're going live again. And boys, we got anything else before I end the stream?
No.
One guy that I'm interested to see next year, like play, just to bring it up, he's on the roster, and I think he's gonna get a chance just because we're talking about we don't have a lot of depth at corner. But I'm interested to see Stephen Gilmore play next year, studying the game because he played great in preseason. Undrafted rookie.
Is he? I was about to say, was he a rookie?
Yeah, Stephen Gilmore. What's his name's brother? Which I've heard rumors about them bringing in the Lions going after
his brother.
Stefan. Is it Stephen and Stefan? Stefan. Yeah.
And he's
all right.
Something. Steven, whatever. All right.
All right.
Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you later this week or next. Stay tuned.
Adios.